Sorry, please sit down. Dankeschön, bitte setzen. Sorry, that was it. That was the photo call. Could you please sit down? Thank you very much. Bitte setzen Sie sich. Bitte stoppen jetzt mit dem Fotografieren. Dankeschön. Please sit down so we can start the press conference. Thank you very much. Bitte setzen Sie sich. Bitte setzen Sie sich. Dankeschön. Bitte machen Sie jetzt keine Fotos mehr. Please don't take any pictures. Sorry, but that's the deal. Dankeschön. Bitte setzen Sie sich, dann können wir jetzt auch gleich anfangen. Thank you very much.
What are these? Translate.
They won't be needed, but might be a question in German. We can put it on. But I guess it will be all in English. It's a translator, yes. Dankeschön. Und ich möchte noch mal darauf hinweisen, bitte keine Fotoaufnahmen, auch von privater Seite.
No
während der
photographing.
Please don't take any picture if
Not
whether
even
professional
for
or
private
non-professional.
purposes.
No more pictures, please. Ja, herzlich willkommen. Please have a welcome to the press conference. Oh, yeah, just said a word. Screening this year in Panorama, George Michael, Different Story, and have a welcome for the producer, Caroline True. Also producer and longtime manager, Andy Stevens. He who is the movie about, George Michael. And the director, Southern Morris. Yes, there's a question on the left side, please. Could you stand up? Thank you.
Hi, this is Melanie Poso for RTL Television. I have two questions directed at George Michael.
Okay.
You've always been a very private person, even though in the center of attention, particularly the media, and them being the ones who outed you. And now with this documentary, you've been very private, and you put yourself out in the world again. Mm-hmm. Has the person, George Michael, changed? What happened that you made this movie? And the second question is the time of hiding now over, and does Kenny Goose help you with that? Thank you.
Let me see. What was the first one again? The first. You're going to have to excuse me because actually I was so nervous about today that I didn't get any sleep last night, which is what these are about. So, you know, you can't. At 41, if you don't get a night's sleep, you can scare children at 200 yards. So, so the first one was.
You've been a private person,
yeah,
and what has changed for you to make that movie?
I think in reality, my mother was a very, very private person, and I always kind of took her example. But in terms of my actual, if you ask my friends, I'm not a very private person at all. But in terms of the media, I've always been very private. But I decided that as we were going along, as we started, it started off as a regular documentary, really. And it wasn't until I actually started seeing the footage and interview footage that I realized that actually this was a good opportunity to explain, you know, to my fans to a degree, but also to kind of casual buyers who might have bought the occasional George Michael record, you know, just to explain why my career has been so sporadic and why I've disappeared for lengths of time and stuff. Because people see so many headlines over the years, they forget really what's gone on. And I just decided that having been so private and not explained myself for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, I thought that, one, my fans deserved to know really what those songs were about. And also that it's almost as much for me as for them in terms of trying to make sense of the last 22 years and kind of bring it to a close in a proper way, you know. But actually, yes, I'm much less worried about being intensely private, and I'm sure a lot of that is to do with being outed. It changes everything, there's no question. Did I answer the second question? What was the second one again?
If the time of hiding is now over, and if Kenny Goose helped you with that.
Well, I think the time of hiding's been over for a while, but actually, this is probably the most you're ever going to see of me. Do you know what I'm saying? I think the future is a much more behind-the-scenes affair for me. So that won't really be a matter of privacy. It'll just be a matter of me not being, you know, it'll just be a matter of me not really being around. So I just thought it was very important to explain myself before I disappear, really.
A question here in the middle, in the back, please.
Yes. It is Ukrainian TV, Ukraina, Mariana Kafka, and I have 3 questions to Mr. Michael.
3 questions, wow.
Sorry, maybe it's
yeah.
there are so many people
Okay.
who like to
That's
ask.
right, if
Just
that's
one.
Very short.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your music.
Thank
first.
you.
And how do you like a name of a documentary, you personally?
How do I like the name of it?
Yes?
Well, I quite like the fact that it has different meanings in a way, but I feel my life is a very different story. I mean, by the time I was 33, 34, I think I could honestly say I'd had better luck than anyone could ever dream of, and worse luck than anyone could hope for in certain ways. So my life has been such a series of extremes that I think a different story I just thought was my way of showing that actually I have a professional life that everybody understood, but the different story is the personal story, you know. And I think actually the idea was to link it obviously to the title of an old record called A Different Corner, and it sounds kind of similar, so.
And what is the most important in your life? So very short.
What's the most important what in my life, sorry? What are the most important things in my life, you mean?
Yeah.
I've said this before, but music and Kenny, you know, music and love. Not sure which is in which order.
Yes, your question in the back. Could you please stand up? Thank you.
Hi, this is MTV Berlin. My name is Anastasia. I would like to know, do you think it's possible for any new artist to make the same career you did 10 or 20 years ago? Is it possible today? And if yes, could you picture a new artist doing it?
To be honest, I don't think it will be. I mean, the 80s was a very particular time. It was a very particular time because it threw up these. I don't mean threw up. I mean there were 4 or 5 individuals who really became elevated in the 80s, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. But I don't think the music industry and the media in general. I think it's so fragmented now. There are so many different areas. I don't think those type of mass mainstream pop artists, I don't think it's going to be very easy to do that again, really. I think the situations have changed. I don't think it's necessarily that the talent is not there. I just think the media works differently, you know. So, no, I can't really... I don't think it will be very easy to find the next Madonna or the next George Michael or the next Prince or whatever. The industry just doesn't allow for it that easily, so...
All the questions today are in the back, please.
Yes, Gregor Vossilis, freelancing journalist. Mr. Michael, thanks very much for this wonderful pudding mix of last Christmas. From my part, still brings some wonderful memories. Yes, especially that mix. Okay, the question actually is a little like the one that my colleague from NTV already asked, but I wanted to know how do you see the vibe of the 80s music business and how that has changed compared to today? You already said something about that, but is that maybe also a reason why you choose to withdraw from it so much? Because the records that you put out are also very anticipated and very interesting, and how is it still I think the vibes have changed, haven't they? Can you explain a little bit how they have changed, maybe?
Well, this answer might be a bit long, but obviously I've thought about this. So there are two basic reasons why I think it's time to kind of close one chapter and maybe try and work out what the next chapter is going to be for me. I think there are two reasons. One is that I don't think I've ever been particularly good at being a celebrity. I don't suit the job very well. You know, it's not very good for my mental health. And I think I've worked pretty hard to maintain a standard for 22 years, and I kind of feel like I want to try and not put myself through that kind of stress anymore. But the other thing is, absolutely, the industry has changed beyond recognition, and I think my own genre is dead, really. I think that pop music has only really survived in terms of pop rock music, funnily enough. I think that there is a very simple reason for this, which I've never heard anyone else discuss, but I think it's very simple. I'll give you an example. 23 years ago, I was sitting in an office at A&M Records, I think it was. Andrew and I had probably done every single record company. We'd kind of blagged our way in to every single record company, and we played them very sketchy demos of Careless Whisper and Wham Rap. And, well, basically nobody heard it for a start. Everybody kind of chucked it back in. I remember the guy from A&M saying, I'd played him Careless Whisper, and admittedly it was only 1 minute 30 of it, but he said, go home and write some hit songs. You know what I mean? So that was the state of pop A&R 22 years ago. The trouble for pop music is it depends on those people to hear what you're doing. The reason rock music is still vibrant in England, and we've still created every couple of years a really great writer, really great band, is that it's not A&R guys that decide who the successful rock bands are. It's still kids off the street, because to be successful as a rock band, you have to play live from the beginning. You gradually build a fan base, and by the time the A&R guys get to you, it's because there's already a big buzz that's come off the street, right? So we have had Oasis, Blur, Radiohead, Coldplay, now Keane, I think, are great. So that has stayed alive because it still comes off the street. Us poor old pop bastards, you know, we've had to wander in and out of these offices offering our little tapes up and saying, please, can you hear this? And the people that are employed to do that are clueless. So basically, I think my genre has been killed off by corporate thinking and corporate, you know, the fact that so many corporate people are employed in record companies. But rock music, English rock music, rock/pop is still alive. I feel my genre is dead. I don't want to be a snob, but I don't really think that there is anybody in the modern pop field that I feel I want to spar with. You know what I'm saying? I think it's kind of, my genre is dead. It doesn't really want to hear intelligent pop music anymore. Radio now has an agenda which is completely aligned with television, which has never been my forte, you know, television. And I think I'm not interested by my industry anymore. If I was U2, I would be, because you know, U2 I think are a fantastic example of a band that's managed to keep their integrity and still make great records, but their genre is still something to be proud of being at the top of, pop rock, you know? I don't know who I'm supposed to want to beat. I'm really not interested in sparring with Robbie Williams or Will Young or Rachel Stevens, maybe. Do you know what I mean? It's just not, it's just, I don't have any, there's no excitement for me in that. So I think I want to try and move my career into a different form. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but it's definitely not going to be trying to get on the radio and trying to compete with Pop Idol. You know, that's not me.
Your question, please. Could you please stand up?
Sorry, it was a long, I told you it was going to be a long answer.
And my question is going to connect to your answer. My name is Jasmine Katami from ZDF Television Germany. I would like to know, in the movie, I just left the movie theater 1.5 hours ago, and I think the last 10, 15 minutes you said something about the people you would like to buy your future albums, your future music, without you having to jump up and down on some stage. The people who have listened to your music for years, for centuries, and now you're saying...
I'm not that old.
What did I say? Did I say for centuries?
Centuries, yeah.
I said that, wow, but I mean...
Occasionally it's felt like that.
Believe me, one thing, you're excited and you're nervous, me too.
Okay, there you go.
So anyway, back to my question. You just said that your genre is dead. What about those people? I mean, those people exist, don't they? There are people going to buy your future albums,
yes,
right?
oh yes, but what I'm saying is I'm a pop musician. To me, I lived for the radio. You know, it's very difficult when you mean I seriously spent 5 years stressing and working and worrying that I was not going to make an album that stood up to my old work. I got the best reviews I've ever had, so I've always been told to be worried about that. When you get good reviews, you should start worrying. But I got the best reviews I've ever had. I've made an album I'm incredibly proud of, but I've realized since releasing it that if you're not prepared to play the game, and I've never really been good at playing the game, you really don't stand a chance, you know. And I think that the people who want to hear my music will still hear my music, and they'll find, you know, they will seek it out. But you know, the people who are can take me or leave me, depending on whether I'm on the radio, those people, I guess, won't get to hear me. But I'm still going to be making music, and I'm still going to make sure that the people that have been listening to me and loyal to me for 20 years, I'm still going to make sure my music gets to them, one way or another.
I have one quick question to the producers, to give you a chance to rest. George Michael has a very specific kind of relationship to corporate America, talking about Sony Music. What do you think the reactions about this to this movie will be in the United States?
I think they'll be extremely favorable because, above all else, it's the most honest documentary I think you'll ever find from any artist. And it tells the story. The artist himself is effectively telling the story from start to finish and exactly where he stands, which was a piece that was missing so many years ago when there was the initial hiatus, the problem that we had with Sony. There was a complete lack of understanding. And if nothing else, I think they now will fully understand the artist in play. We did Oprah and some other promotional work earlier in the Life of the Patients album, and we had a very good pickup from that. You know, Oprah has an extraordinary effect. Bang, it came back. It was simply a factor that George, as he's very succinctly explained, was not prepared to play the game in the way that is required by record companies today, to the fullest extent, by going and whoring yourselves up and down the country with radio stations and feeling comfortable with that, which many artists do.
I didn't sleep with any of them.
No. But it's just, you know, it's just not George's thing, you know. And I think George has every right to be an individual, and I think that's explained very well within the process of this film. That's why we're very proud of it. So I hope that answers the question.
Your question, please. Yes, it's you.
Okay. Mary Winke from Currents Magazine, Hamburg, Germany. This sort of follows up on what Mr. Stevens just said, and I want to talk about America. The film is very personal, it's very open and honest, and the American public really seems to enjoy having someone expose themselves, and then they'll forget, and then buy your records.
No pun intended, right?
That's right. So do you have any plans, or is there any reason why you would want to try to make a comeback in America at this point?
If I'd wanted to make a comeback in America, then I think I would have tried to do that. There are easy ways. If I really wanted to make an impact on the market, then I would just have gone about it in a much more, modern way, which is doing loads and loads of TV. That wasn't what I wanted to do in America. In America, I felt that I owed it to the people that had remained loyal to me. About, 1 million people, roughly, keep buying the albums when they come out over there. So I thought I thought they deserved me to go over there and do a bit of promotion and kind of reintroduce myself and again try to explain to people, you know, that there were reasons that I'd been away. And I think I did that. I was not looking for any huge comeback, and I didn't think it was likely. But I think I made the right. I think my fans now in America understand why I haven't been there, which is, you know, that was the point, really.
Question in the back, please. Yeah.
My question is for George Michael. Before starting, I'm Mehari from the African Refugee News, and I would like to thank you for the contribution you gave 20 years ago for Ethiopia, and today for Darfur. And the question is, the question I would like to ask is, mainly when somebody makes a documentary like this, is just telling us that he's moving off from music and jumping the wall to become an actor. Is this what you're feeling?
Oh, no. No, no, no.
Oh, no, okay.
No.
And the second question, what was the influence of your Greek origin in your starting the music? Because it was so different from the music that was played in England at that time. So that I finish. And what did the After the Child, you remember them, Mr. Susan, give to you with their music? Because they were the first Greek band in the top 10 in England at that time. And that time there was Cliff Richard.
The first, Greek band, did you say? Well, Andrew's not Greek.
No.
But, I to be honest with you, it's strange, actually. I have an Australian friend who explained this to me in a way that I had never understood. But I think just the fact that I'm not English, I think the fact that I am, you know, of mixed race, as it were, I think Andrew and I, to people outside of England, whether it be Australia or Europe or whatever, I think we just somehow appeared different because there was something very un-English about us, I suppose. And of course what I do and what I've always done is based very much on American R&B. But I think also the way we projected ourselves and the kind of sexuality of what we were doing was very un-British, and I just didn't understand that at the time. I understand it with hindsight, you know. But I don't think, it's not like I listened to a lot of Greek music at home as a child. Well, not voluntarily, anyway. I'm sorry, did I answer the last bit of that? I can't remember. Yeah. Okay.
Sad but true, but this is the last question for today.
Hi, 2 questions for George Michael. Aisha, MTN Television USA. First question, you had too many faces, and you've been to different phases and stages in your life throughout 20 years of pop music career. Which would you highlight as your most important one? And second question is, what do you think of the 80s comeback music, which you were a big part of?
Which musical phase was the most important to me? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
It's hard to say. Of course, obviously, the most important in terms of when I made a connection with the public would have been around the Faith period, because it was so full on, you know, and it was so there was so much publicity around it. I always like to think that the most important music I've made is just the most recent music I've made and the music that will come, you know. So that, I would say, to me, is always the feeling. And what was the second bit?
What do you think of the 80s comeback music?
Oh, okay.
You were a big part of the 80s music.
Well, as long as the fashion doesn't come back, I think it's fine. God knows I'm, you know, I was the perpetrator of many fashion crimes in the 80s.
The Just Do It T-shirts are back in the market.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And the Choose Life kind of thing.
The Choose Life.
I think the truth about that is I think I dressed terribly because I hadn't had a decent shag. It's a bit like, I think I was the male Kylie. You know the way Kylie went from being completely clueless looking, then she went out with Michael Hutchence and suddenly she was a babe, you know? I think my fashion sense was a bit like that. So you can... So I guess you can look back through those old videos and you can decide for yourselves when it happened. But
so we've all been very glad to have a well-dressed George Michael here, and thanks for this, the different story.